Under the blazing lights of the Principality Stadium, a sea of 70,000 voices rose like a storm waiting to break. The air crackled with anticipation, the kind that settles deep in the chest of every fan who knows they're moments away from witnessing a battle carved into heavyweight history. Anthony Joshua, the unified heavyweight champion of the world, draped in the IBF, WBA, and IBO titles, made that long, deliberate walk to the ring like a king returning to defend his throne. His face was calm, his jaw set, his rhythm unbroken as the crowd roared his name. AJ, opposite him, emerging through the smoke and the shadows, was the stubborn, unyielding challenger, Carlos Takam, a late replacement, an underdog with nothing to lose and a rugged determination etched into every line on his face. Even as he stood in Joshua's shadow, Takam wore a look that promised resistance, a vow that he would not fold easily. And so, when the referee gathered them in the middle, delivering the final instructions, the tension hung suspended between them like the calm before a cannon blast. Gloves touched, the noise swelled. Two powerhouses stood ready to impose their will. The bell rang, and the story of Joshua versus Takam began its first heavy chapter. The opening rounds carried a surprising stillness, a cautious chess match beneath the surface of heavyweight violence. Joshua stepped forward with patience, poking with his jab, measuring range, adjusting to an opponent shorter, tougher, and far more elusive than the southpaw he had originally trained for. Takam, low to the ground and stalking, sought to crowd Joshua, to slip beneath the champion's long reach and make him uncomfortable. But then a sudden clash. Heads collided in close range, and the tenor of the fight changed instantly. Blood streamed from Joshua's nose, pouring down his face in a dark red line that shifted the momentum and sharpened the tension. The champion blinked, pawed at the damage, and the crowd drew a collective breath. Takam seized his opening, dipping, weaving, firing hooks at angles, testing Joshua's composure. Joshua responded with disciplined calm, though the pain in his nose was obvious every time Takam barreled forward, head first, forcing contact. Joshua pumped his jab, trying to reestablish order, but Takam's stubborn charges disrupted the rhythm. The atmosphere tightened. What had begun as a feeling-out round was now a gritty fight, a test of the champion's resolve. Blood changes everything in boxing. It changes the pressure, the urgency, the stakes. And as the second round ended, one thing was clear. This was no routine title defense. This was war waiting to erupt. As the middle rounds unfolded, Joshua began to reclaim the center of the ring with a surgeon's precision and a soldier's authority. He planted heavier shots, letting the right hand drop like a hammer and following it with sharp, disciplined left hooks that snapped Takam's head back. The challenger, though shaken, refused to retreat. He ducked low, absorbed punishment on his gloves and shoulders, and came charging back at angles, looking to make Joshua doubt his own command of the fight. But the champion adjusted. He softened Takam with bodywork, thudding hooks beneath the elbow, shots designed to slow a smaller man's legs, and timed him with counters as Takam launched himself forward. The crowd pulsed with every clean connection Joshua landed, growing louder each time Takam absorbed a brutal combination and refused to fall. The damage to Takam's face deepened, swelling, cuts and bruises accumulating with every round, especially over that right eye where a gash opened and began leaking blood in worrying streams. Joshua, though composed, was fighting through adversity too, breathing heavier, managing the injury from the earlier head clash, and attempting to pick apart a fighter who simply would not go away. Robert McCracken from the corner urged more jabs, more discipline, more control, and Joshua delivered. He fought like a man who understood the responsibility of a champion. Never panic, never rush, and never let a determined challenger dictate the script. The fight grew into a rugged, tactical war, Joshua the sharpshooter, Takam the storm, refusing to break. By the 7th and 8th rounds, the fight shifted once more, this time into a test of stamina and grit. Joshua, accustomed to breaking opponents earlier, now found himself in a long, grueling contest against a man who seemed to draw strength from punishment. Takam, battered but unbowed, continued slipping inside the jab, ripping right hands over the top and surging forward with the resilience of a fighter who had never come to lie down. Joshua breathed deeply, sometimes stepping back with his hands high, recalibrating, conserving energy for the late rounds. It was a champion's calculation: control the pace, avoid reckless exchanges, and pick moments with precision rather than emotion. Still, every exchange carried danger. Takam landed sneaky counters, sharp rights that clipped Joshua's jaw or sank into his ribs. But each time the champion stood firm, answering with jabs that stung and uppercuts designed to dissuade the challenger's relentless forward motion. The cuts on Takam's face grew worse. Blood streamed along both sides now, above each eye, flowing in dark, constant rivulets that stained his chest and shoulders. Yet his spirit refused surrender. And in the arena, the energy shifted from pure excitement to admiration. Admiration for Joshua's composure and admiration for Takam's unbreakable will. The mid-fight war had become a study in determination, and both fighters, drenched in sweat and blood, pushed deeper into the 10th round with a sense that something decisive was coming. In the 10th round, Joshua stepped forward with renewed authority, sensing the weight of the moment and the fatigue creeping over his challenger's movements. He snapped Takam's head with crisp jabs, fired combinations with intent, and cut off the ring with the confidence of a champion ready to close the show. Takam still fought back, a warrior's instinct never dimming. But the damage over both eyes, the exhaustion in his steps, and the accumulation of 10 rounds of heavy artillery began to take their toll. Joshua unleashed a brutal combination: hooks, uppercuts, straight shots that collided with Takam's guard and head, forcing him backward for one of the first times in the fight. A massive right uppercut jolted Takam, sending his balance teetering, and the arena erupted as the challenger staggered under the assault. Joshua pressed, pouring on punches with accuracy and controlled aggression, enough to threaten a knockout, enough to force the referee to peer more closely at the damage, but not reckless enough to put himself in danger. Takam, blinded by blood and battered by the storm, still tried to swing back, a final act of defiance from a man who refused to simply survive. But the referee, seeing the cuts, the punishment, and the overwhelming dominance of the champion, stepped in. The fight was stopped. Joshua turned away with arms slightly raised, breathing heavily, while the crowd thundered approval. It was not the spectacular one-punch finish fans dreamed of, but it was domination, perseverance, and a champion's duty fulfilled. When the dust settled and the fight came to its abrupt end, a wave of mixed emotions washed over the stadium. Some fans wished the battle had gone on, believing that Takam, unbreakable till the last moment, deserved to finish on his shield. But others saw what the referee saw: a challenger too damaged to continue, cuts pouring blood, eyes compromised, and a champion landing clean and unanswered shots in a moment where safety becomes the only outcome. Joshua stood in the center of the ring, sweat streaking down his chest, the blood from his earlier injury still dried on his nose, and breathed in the roar of the crowd. This victory was not about perfection. It was about adversity, adjustment, grit. He had survived a broken nose, unexpected angles, and a challenger with granite resolve. He had navigated chaos with discipline, proven he could adapt under pressure, and shown once again why he stood at the summit of the heavyweight division. Carlos Takam, meanwhile, earned universal respect, walking away with his head high, having taken a champion deep into the trenches and refusing to bend. The final announcement echoed through the stadium, and still the heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua. A roar followed, immense and electric, and in that moment, beneath the lights and thunder of the Principality Stadium, this chapter in Joshua's reign became more than a victory. It became a testament to the heart of a champion and the spirit of a challenger who reminded the world that toughness is its own kind of glory.